Hi everybody, my name is Eric and welcome to my first ever woodworking YouTube video. In these first few shots you'll see me working on building up my seat blank and cutting it out on the bandsaw. Here I am using my template to help me lay out holes for drilling. You'll notice that I use a portable drill guide for drilling, which I had a lot of trouble with, and in the future we'll be working out a different solution. Since I'm self-taught, I'm probably not using the most traditional method for laying out my angles for leg drilling, but this method has worked out pretty well for me so far. And here's where I fought my drill the most. My angles might have been slightly off, and my holes were definitely not as clean as they could have been. Somewhere in these steps, I also decided to plane the seat down to be a little bit thinner. Here I am cutting out the leg blanks on the bandsaw. They will be made out of 8/4 walnut. Next we cut them to length using a gang cutting technique at the crosscut sled. Here I am marking out and punching the center lines for the lathe. Next, I do a pretty heavy roundover at the router table to take some pressure off of the rough milling at the lathe. Next, I turn the legs on the lathe. For this chair, I used cylindrical tenons, but in future chairs, I'd like to try tapered tenons. And now for lots of sanding. Next, I apply a homemade hard wax oil finish that I made myself out of boiled linseed oil and a couple of different types of waxes. Next up is the spindles that get the exact same treatment. Now for a quick dry assembly just to make sure that everything fits okay. Here I am cutting thin strips at the table saw for a bent lamination. I use normal Titebond 3. I've tried steam bending, but I have had much more success with this method, so this is what I do. It's pretty ugly in this state, but once it gets cleaned up at the jointer and the planer, you'll see that I have no gaps and everything looks really good. The next several shots are me working from the center point to find out where to drill the holes for the backrest. Earlier I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, but here I am poking the holes all the way through for the backrest. The spindles I turned earlier are too long, and so I'll use these to adjust the height for the backrest and cut them off to the right length. For the top of the spindles, I'm just using the blue tape method and a drill bit to drill pilot holes, and eventually I will peg these into place with just a homemade dowel. Here I am just marking out and splitting at the bandsaw these spindles so that I can wedge them into place. And finally, here I start into some seat carving to get the final shape. I'm not too good at this, and I'd like to change how I do this in the future, but this works for my first attempt. And here I am measuring and laying out where I'm going to cut off the backrest to get it to its final shape. And here I am jumping on into gluing up and wedging the chair together. This is a little bit premature as I decided to go back and add some leg stretchers later on, but this is a bit of an experiment, so that's okay. And here I am finalizing the fit for the backrest and wedging the tenons into place. And here I am drilling out the pilot holes so that they can accept my homemade dowels and pin the backrest into place. Here I am throwing on some quick roundovers onto the backrest just to make it a little bit more comfortable and ease the edges. And now to trim the wedges to size and balance the chair out. And here I am going back with a very large drill bit to drill out some holes for leg stretchers. Again, this is a little bit too late for this, but I'm working with what I got. Here I am turning a slightly dinky leg stretcher, but it does seem to do the job. Definitely made the chair a little bit more stable. And here I am putting the finishing touches on using the same wax oil blend that I made at home. I hope you enjoyed the build, and let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments. And here are some final pictures of the project. Thank you guys so much again for watching.